What is good, everyone? Welcome to today's charting session of the day. Today's Sunday, June 29th, 2025. I'm going to be going over this week's price action, trades taken, trades potentially that you guys could have also taken. I'm going to also then give a weekly outlook, and then this is a time where you guys can ask whatever questions that you may have. I know live trading gets a little bit hectic at times. I'm not able to answer everyone's questions, so hopefully I will get to your guys' questions today. Okay, so we can start off the week on Monday. Am I playing music? Oops, didn't realize that. So we'll start on the week on Monday. All right, so Monday was a pretty clear bias. We had this sell side resting here. We also had this sell side was significant because Y was a low inside of a fair value gap. So this was a 1 hour intermediate low. And it was also a 4 hour bullish gap. And overall trending higher towards all-time highs, right? So this was a really nice long. For me, I just couldn't find an entry model on this day. There was too many gaps in this leg, and the entry was just a little bit too premium for me. Now, I think there wasn't even a 30-second, yeah. So on this day, I just sat out because I wanted to see, a cleaner leg, maybe some move like this, and then have a leg like this, so then I can long here, break even here, something like that. Or I was just looking for a continuation model, where we had a 5-minute or 15-minute gap to then send us back higher. But we basically just ripped up the whole day, and I didn't really get any entries for longs on this day, and I couldn't really find, when I was looking back, any potential entries either. But I'm curious, did you guys catch anything on this day? Did you guys catch any longs? Did you guys get any trades on this day or what? Who's gonna kip out? Short. 1 minute short. Where's the 1 minute? What time? 3 minute. Okay, got you. Yeah, it looks pretty clean. Mechanically, it looks good. Till what, an unfold 5? Nice. Oh! I personally don't like trading like gaps when if there's no like 1 minute gap and there's like a 3 minute gaps. It's just like it's never high probability in my opinion conditions. But all right, well, if we don't have any questions about this day or anything else, we can move on to Tuesday, right? So that was just the idea, though. If there was something cleaner in this leg, I think this long would have been very obvious and nice. But yeah, on this day, there just really was nothing. So I'm going to go into now Tuesday. Tuesday was a very shitty day for me personally. I think Pat ended up taking trades on this day, but I really couldn't find any trades. It was a very, very choppy day. And we were basically just generating this low resistance liquidity throughout all of AM session here. We had this low here. We had this data low here. And these lows just kept getting generated, right? So when I'm looking for displacement, and when I'm looking for manipulation especially, I'm looking to see a move like this, right? Especially when we're in this accumulation zone. That's literally, like, this is, like, horrible for me. Like, if I can't read a 15-minute chart, then I wouldn't be able to read, like, a 1 minute chart, right? Like, that should be that's how I'm thinking personally, right? So that's the reason I personally didn't take any trades on this day, was because I couldn't determine what the 15-minute chart was doing all pre-market, and I was just simply waiting for a manipulation either higher and then take a short lower targeting this low resistance liquidity, or a manipulation lower and then targeting higher. But this was just way too choppy, and there was really nothing I could have personally. I didn't like anything here, but yeah, that shit was cooked this day, bro. I don't even know. But yeah, this is the type of like moves that you get that's kind of suck when it's like, I mean, there's 3 different ways like you can break out of an accumulation zone. One is you have, you know, your classic AMD where you have a manipulation and then you have a distribution. The other is just like a simple breakout where we have this and then we eventually just break out. And then another is we just do something like this where we break both sides and then we have the run higher. So this day, and it's the least kind of favorite way I see us breaking out of manipulation is when, or sorry, accumulation is when we just have like a breakthrough like this, which is just like cringe. I don't know. There's just like not good setups here, but like for me, I just couldn't find shit. This is just like dog water. Dog water. Can you look at the 1 minute long on Monday? Yeah, Monday that was just like too many gaps in the leg was the thing. Is lower resistance liquidity just a trend line? Yeah, it is. It's just trend line liquidity. Is it okay if I don't feel like watching any more charting sessions? Recording the thing. Yeah, I mean that's like the point of the Discord, bro. You shouldn't be in here for like more than like a month or 2 or 3, like max. Get what you need to know, and you know if you understand everything that's happening and that I'm talking about, and you're confident taking trades on your own, then yeah, bro, you don't need to watch it. Can we not add trade pics in the chat? Unfortunately not. Unfortunately, we don't have pictures. But you can send in like the VIP. But yeah, for like PV Premium right now. No, 2-minute inversion at 10:15. Yeah, there was an inversion here. Again, I don't love this because of all this trendline liquidity that's here. Even though there is an SMT, this trendline liquidity like very often gets ran with an SMT, even if there's an SMT. So it's just not something I personally take. Yeah, we'll get into Thursday when the Thursday day comes. What do you think about 12:48? 1 minute inverse to 15 minutes. What are we bouncing off? Yeah, I don't know. I just don't really love shorts at all-time highs, to be honest. I don't love shorts, especially like lunch hour, but looks like this played out to that 15 minutes, so not a bad idea. Do you still only enter off of a 3-minute inversion minimum? No, I've never done that. No. If the 1 minute's the highest time frame, I just enter off the highest time frame. So if like the 1 minute's the highest time frame in the leg, then I'll enter off a 1 minute, 2 minute, 3 minute, 4 minute, 5 minute. Just short on Monday. All right, let's see. Yeah, we just went over that. Yeah, it wasn't a bad idea, no. I just don't love shorts at all-time highs again. We did just go over that 3 minute. Do you always wait for a resweep in mech? No. I do not always, no. As long as we trade into the higher time frame key level and we've hit our higher time frame, yeah, key level, there's no reason where there should be a resweep. Unless we generate low resistance liquidity at our stop loss, then I'll wait for a resweep. Unless we make equal lows at our stop loss, then I'll wait for a resweep. Or unless like time's on a line and I want to see like 10 a.m. open. But majority of the time I don't really need to wait for that resweep unless those things are happening. All right, let's go into now Wednesday. Okay. God damn, that ship's taking a while. Okay. Let's go into Wednesday. All right, so Wednesday, there was one setup on this day that was clean. This was like really the only setup I saw on this day. If we look at 9:30 open here, we ended up trading higher. And again, it was a short that was at all-time highs. Mechanically, I think this setup was really good. Like mechanically, this is a great setup. So we'll get into this. We had an unfilled 1 hour. On this day, I was personally bullish towards this recent high. I wanted to see price first do something like this, trade into this unfilled 1 hour, then get a distribution out of that. Or if we end up trading higher at open, then get some displacement lower, then you can look for a short towards that 1 hour gap, right? So that was like the condition. Now we did end up trading higher at open. Another traded higher at open. And then from here at this point, we got a resweep, we got another resweep, and then we got a 5-minute inversion for value gap right here. So we ended up inversing this 5-minute, or not yet. We ended up respecting this, but we created this 5-minute gap. And then once this gap gets respected, and then a bullish gap here gets disrespected, what can you expect? This 5 minutes to the left of you to get disrespected, right? So bearish respected, bullish disrespected, and then you can expect that like higher time frame here to get disrespected as well. So this was a 3-minute short here. Close was pretty bad, so you could have waited for like a retest or just, you know, better RR if you want to get a 1-to-1, maybe just wait it here. But overall, this was the idea. And then we had that unfilled 1 hour gap right here, right? So this is a little bit of a higher time frame mech model, a little bit more discretionary, right? Where you're just targeting an unfilled gap. And that was the idea right there. Now from here, I was looking to see a potential long. And there was this 2-minute that I was going to take on this day. And I didn't because of how bad the displacement was, right? This is very common with inversions where there will be valid entries with inversions, right? And there will also be invalid entries, right? So what a valid entry looks like is this V-shaped recovery that we'll have, right? So if we have a move like this, you want to see after we hit our key level, instant displacement and, you know, just straight green candles, for example, through this 2-minute gap or whatever the highest time frame is in this leg. Now, if you see something like this where we start generating liquidity, right? I just talked about this, where I will wait for a resweep if price does something like this, where we slowly are inverting the gap. Then what's most likely going to happen, this inverse is just going to fail and it's just not going to be a valid entry anymore, right? So that's the reason I did end up fading this trade, and it would have been a loss on this trade, but I ended up fading it because look how long it takes for us to invert this 2-minute candle, right? It took a very, very long time, and then this did end up failing and then running towards all this low resistance liquidity. And then on this day, we did just have a manipulation day where price did end up just selling off the whole day. Oops, I just kind of fast forwarded a bit too much. What day was this? Wednesday? Yeah. So this day was just a lot of displacement lower, right? So I did take a PM trade that I did scale half and I got break even on. So I'll show you the trade that I ended up taking. Now, even though this was a break even trade, it still was a very A+ setup. And I do just still want to show you guys what it was, or scale half break even trade, even though it didn't hit full TP. We ended up having this run lower, and since AM was just like very like not good in my eyes, and we ended up having this unfilled 15-minute gap, I wanted to see a mech model towards this unfilled gap. So we ended up at around 1250 macro, ended up forming this bullish SMT here at Asia lows. And at this point, I was looking for a long out of this, right? So we ended up selling off here, forming that SMT, and then we got a 5-minute CIC. At this point, I'm waiting for confirmation. I want to see price form a 5-minute bullish gap, trade into this, and then form an inversion out of this, which is what happened. Ended up tapping into this, and then we ended up getting a 2-minute inverse right here after that. So that's where I entered longs. And then I did scale half here, and then I got break even. On MNQ, it did hit the high. On NQ, it just made equal highs, but it did fill me, so that was that. But yeah, pretty boring day on this day, but yeah, when should we trade during New York PM? I would say like 1 PM, start looking. What's a CISD and how does it work? So if you have a change state of delivery, it's the down close candle that sweeps liquidity. If you get a body closure above the opening price, for example, in a bullish scenario, then that's a change state of delivery. So we have a series of down close candles here that sweep out this liquidity and form an SMT here and trade into the key level. Then once we get that body closure here at 1255, this is your change in state of delivery. Can you look at the 4-minute inversion right after 2 PM? Performant inversion right after 2 p.m. What the fuck is happening in my chart? Bro, what? Okay. Yeah, it looks like this did work after, I think it hit at like 5 p.m. or something. Yeah, just like the 350 macro ended up working. Yeah, not bad. It's like too late in my trading session, but I took that AM short to the unfilled 15. Do you think it was too greedy? Nah, I don't think it was greedy. It was a great play. To the unfilled hourly? Unfilled 15-minute. Oh, you're saying all the way down to here? I would say, I mean, if you had a bearish draw, I mean, bro, really it all depends on like your trading style. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I personally don't need, if it's like above a 1R and it's the low hanging fruit there, like there's no reason to not take profits there at minimum. I think if we were gonna be bullish in this scenario and this wasn't gonna be a day of just manipulation lower for setting up for a Thursday long, then, you know, this 1 hour gap would have definitely just gotten respected, especially at all-time highs. So yeah. Would you take a trade without a significant liquidity sweep? Yes, I would. I mean, if the liquidity, for example, like I don't need to be in the trade. If we have a liquidity sweep here, I don't need to be in the trade here, right? I don't need to be in the trade here. If we get displacement and then we have like a run lower, like into a gap like this, then we get some sort of continuation out of this, then that's still fine, right? And that's not technically a liquidity sweep happening right here, but there was a liquidity sweep, right? So I guess yes and no. Our CIC, yes, exactly. Only valid after sweeping liquidity. How to choose the manipulation leg and the MAC if the 1 and 5 minute consecutive candle legs are different. Yeah, so you're looking at like the 1 minute, right? If you're looking at the 1 minute and we have a leg like this, you're just looking at the highest time frame in this leg. But I would say to rewatch the video on MEC model if you're still a bit confused. 135 short on Wednesday. Yeah, I didn't love this short. I don't think this short was good at all just because we didn't hit the 15-minute. This is just, there was no confluences behind this. I mean, me personally, I don't have any confluences, but if you can go over your confluences. Wednesday, why does the 9:57 3-minute long not work? 9:57 long. Because there's a 5-minute gap here. 5 minutes the highest time frame in this leg. The hourly on the shorts. Oh yeah, we did hit this hourly. Yeah, then I mean I don't think it's bad. But it's just targets wise, like you're targeting an SMT low, which is not something I love. Like the liquidity got swept here. But again, if you have your confluences for it, bro, then you have your confluences. At the end of the day, I see the market differently than you see the market, and nobody's ever going to see the market the exact same way, even if we trade the same strategy. But yeah, I personally wouldn't take this just because we didn't hit the 15-minute and we had an SMT at this low, so this liquidity was already taken, and there's no reason to go back to it, right? But yeah, let's get into now Thursday, okay? hold up. I need to stand up for a second, bro. Give me 1 second. Ah, my fucking calves. Oh, what the fuck? Ah. Okay. Ow. Okay. All right, so let's get into the Thursday trades. There's 2 setups you could have taken. 2 very A+ setups here. So starting off, we had, again, very obvious bias higher. Why? Because we had data highs here, overall at all-time highs, so just a bullish bias. And then we had a 4-hour bullish gap here, right here, and 4-hour order block as well, right? So coming into the morning, I said, and I was looking at specifically this 15-minute intermediate low, and I was saying that I want that to be low of day if we are going to be bullish, right? Because if we are going to be bearish here, this low should not get traded through, and this should be the lowest point. Why? Because if we're looking at like the 4-hour chart here, if this starts getting traded through, then most likely this 4 hours also going to get inverted. And you want to be looking at, you know, time frames and gaps and liquidity pools inside of those higher time frame gaps to get the most accurate entry possible. So knowing this, we ended up having a 1-minute inverse here. Textbook play. You could have taken this close, or you also could have taken this close if you wanted to wait for the CISD as well. How many of you guys took this play? Nah, me faded it, took the second. Me, nice. Me break even. How'd you get break even on this? You got break even on this? I lost on this play. What the fuck did you guys take? This was just straight green. Oh, I took a long here. I forgot about this though. I took a long right before this. That got break even. 30-second. This is a break even with a high. But yeah, very A+ setup here. Definitely something that you guys should have taken if you didn't. And if you didn't, something to journal for sure. Okay. So this was also bouncing off of a PD array as well as this liquidity pool. And then we had data highs above. Now, at this point in time, right, we ended up having an SMT with this high. Okay, so there was a bearish SMT in play. However, there was a continuation model, right? So we had external liquidity still intact. So I want to see price trade from internal to external here towards this 5-minute gap. And if we are going to be bearish, and if this SMT is valid, then what should price do? Disrespect this 5-minute gap and get lower time frame confirmation that price wants to go lower. However, if we are going to be bullish, then we should respect this gap and then get lower time frame confirmation that price wants to go higher, right? And if that SMT is going to get disrespected, that's what you should wait for. So that's what I was looking for. We end up having this 5-minute. We end up having 10 a.m. open here as well. So we traded below opening price, sweeping out this low, tapping this 5-minute gap, and we got a 1-minute inverse out of this. So this is that's where I entered longs, targeting this recent buy side. And then you also, this was just a simple 1-to-1 R, low-hanging fruit trade. That's all I needed because there was that SMT. I was still playing it safe, but you definitely could have also targeted data highs if you wanted a little bit of better risk to reward there. And that would have netted you around a 1 to 2. So, yeah. Price takes sell-side liquidity, then trades towards buy-side liquidity versus price takes sell-side liquidity and yeah, so how do you know the difference between a manipulation, a reversal, and a continuation? I mean, there's a lot of different ways to determine that, for example, if we have, you know, a low inside of a gap, like I was just talking about here, if we take sell side, and if we don't sweep it and we don't get confirmation that price wants to go higher, and instead we start closing below it, and we start closing below these PDRAs and start disrespecting this gap, then you can expect price to go lower. How do you know if it's a true sweep? If we get very minimal displacement and if we get that sort of V-shaped reaction out of that, like we see here, then you can know it's going to be a reversal. I mean, there's also, you know, daily bias you have to put into play with like London session manipulation, daily profiles that, you know, we go over, and we go over that in like the mentorship and stuff. We have videos on that, so that's going to be a longer topic of discussion. But daily profiles also something to pay attention to. I realized that sometimes you go break even when you hit an SMT at your TP level. Sometimes you go take full profits. Yeah, so the only way I'll see an SMT be valid is if, for example, if we have an SMT at like my internal high here, I really don't care. For example, let's say I enter here and then my draw is just like higher, right? So I don't care and I'll go break even. However, if we have an SMT like here and like the trade plays out and then we get an SMT, that's where I'll full close. It also depends really on my RR. So if my RR is negative and then we hit, you know, my take profit, then what I'll do is I will not scale and I'll wait for it to hit a 1-to-1. Then I'll scale and probably full TP. But yeah. Can you explain 10 a.m. open? 10 a.m. open? Yeah. So 10 a.m. open and like the 4-hour candle, if you're bullish, you want to see price have an open low, high close. For example, here we have this open price. We trade higher, but we don't hit this high yet. And then we trade lower below opening price. Then we trade higher, respecting the PRAs at opening price. And we trade higher. So you can use that also with like true day open, things like that. It has like the same reaction. And then if you're bearish, obviously you want to see price, you know, accumulate, manipulate, lower. All right, so do you ever short all-time highs? Sometimes I do, but only not like at all-time highs. I usually don't short at all-time highs, but if we get displacement from all-time highs lower, then yeah. 1035, 1 minute inverse to 5 minute gap. Yeah, I didn't like shorts here. I was saying I didn't like shorts here just because draw was taken and I was expecting price to be choppy for the rest of the day. So I didn't take any shorts on this day. Yes, you need to have an unfilled 5 minute and 15 minute gap to. All right, let's get into Friday. That short should be a win though. No, this was not a good short setup. No. You don't have any targets. Your draw like the targets are just not as good. Number one, you're trading against 10 a.m. open, right? So opening price, you're trading against the 4-hour bullish candle, right? So that's just very already going to be low probability. You're trading against price having an open low, and then we're going to have a high close most likely on the 4-hour candle because we're bullish. Higher time frame is bullish. Narrative is bullish. So no, this shouldn't be a winning trade. This is a low probability short. And then also you don't have any unfilled gaps to target. So there's no reason for really price to even trade back towards here and rebalance this range because there's no unfilled 15 minute, there's no unfilled 5 minute. These gaps have already been mitigated. Okay. Can you go over the 11:30 long? Okay. So we took buy side again. What was the entry model here? Yeah, that's the thing with like so many free rally gaps in this leg. It's tough to get an entry model. I don't know what trade did you take? Five-minute inverse. How'd you take the 5-minute inverse? Yeah, so the 5-minute inverse wouldn't be a valid play because we ended up taking out the internal high before the close happened. So this wouldn't be a valid play. But I literally just answered that question, give out for like I answered that so long ago. Bruh. Go back and watch the recording, bro. TN, bro. TN. Thursday. What is this? Okay, we can go to Friday now. Oh my god, bro, I'm gonna ban pictures. Yes, these are recorded. It's always been red folder. Just somehow, I don't know why I just changed to orange folder. All right, so let's get into Friday here on this day. Friday was a very clean day, very clean setup, so we'll get into it. Obvious bullish bias. We had data highs here. We had an unfilled 15-minute gap as well, so longs were definitely in the play. We swept out this low that was resting inside of this 1-hour bullish for rally gap. That gets swept right here, so this is your internal low. Right, so that's your 1-hour intermediate low. Gets swept. We ended up having displacement after this. There was 10 a.m. news, so I was waiting for 10 a.m. news to present itself. This ended up displacing higher. We ended up getting a continuation long on this day, very almost exactly the same long as the other day, where we had 10 a.m. open. We had a devil's mark here, meaning what? That there's no wick on the bottom of this candle. So when you see something like this, you have to wait for price to trade below this opening price, form the wick on this candle, and then longs can then be valid. If you're just waiting for, if you're trading above this with a devil's mark, you're just most likely going to get manipulated. So see this as a really, really strong draw as well as an area of manipulation. Okay. If you're bearish, see this as a strong draw, and if you're bullish, wait for that to get hit. So that's what I was waiting for, and that's what I was saying the whole time. I was waiting for this. There was a long right here. We ended up having some sort of SMT at this low. At this point, there was a continuation long that I did end up not taking because, again, because I was waiting for this devil's mark, right? So I was waiting for liquidity to also be generated, which is what happened. We ended up generating liquidity, generating these relative equal highs here. Trading lower, hit this low, hit 10 a.m. open, had a 1-minute inverse. We also had a 30-second inverse. Once this closed here, I ended up entering longs. Stop loss at the low. We ended up getting a direct candle here. And then I full closed once we formed that bearish SMT. We had an SMT here, and I was over a 1 to 2.5 RR. So at that point, I ended up full closing the trade, and that's that. Do you guys have any questions on this trade or on this day? Friday's PA was beautiful. Really, really clean PA on Friday. Very obvious longs here that you could have taken. Longs here that you could have taken. Friday I took this trade in news at 10, but I didn't see it was important. Maybe because I didn't know it was important. Yeah, you definitely should wait for news to hit, because the majority of the time we are going to be chopping before news. We're gonna have accumulation, and then it really depends though. You can also, I say, when you're more experienced and you get to that point where you're a more experienced trader and you can understand what clean price action is and looks like, because I feel like for a lot of people they're unable to recognize conditions, and that's a huge part of screen time and overall trading, and knowing when to step out versus be risk on versus risk off. So I'd say when you're a beginner, just wait for 10 a.m. news to give you that narrative and a clearer picture. But I mean, this price action's relatively clean. I feel like that wasn't the best 1 minute inverse, but still worked. Why do you say that? Yes, we did. If your rally upside doesn't matter to you guys, inverses, no. When can we leave runners to the highest buy side liquidity? If you have a really confident draw on liquidity towards that high. If it's like a unsponsored London low or high or something like that, right? If your external draw is very obvious and like it's previous day high, then do it. But I always say just get the low-hanging fruit. If it's over a 1-to-1 RR, that's all you really need. I mean, I'm not going to target, another 80 points all-time highs when I'm not too confident it's going to hit, especially when we have this bearish SMT. So is 10 AM low considered significant liquidity and why? Yeah, I did just go over that, just devil's mark. Yeah, I did just say it. On this trade, I put my stop loss slightly below T of the wick. I'm not going to lie, I got really lucky. So I put my stop loss lower. Yeah, I mean, I do that only if the wick is like really big. But like, bro, this stop loss is what, like 58 points? Like, this is, I don't need a tighter stop loss than this. And also, it's over 2R. Like, I really don't need to be like nitpicky with my stop loss like that. Yeah, it really depends, bro. If it's like a huge wick, again, like this, then I'll do, okay, then I'll look at equilibrium in this range, and I'll put it slightly below EQ, like around here. But if not, and it's not like that significant of a wick, I don't need to. Can you rate the mech right after that long? The mech, where's the mech here? Unfilled 5 minute here, was it here? Oh, the mech long. Okay. Yeah, this would have been a good setup. There was just no entry on it. Or you maybe, is this a 1 minute for rally yet? No, it's probably like a 30-second. Okay, so you could have taken the 30-second here. 30-second was clean, yeah. Towards unfilled 5. Then it's Monday. Yeah, we'll see, we'll see. Yeah, with mech model, you go break even at the unfilled 5 minute or 15 minute gaps. If you don't find a trade in AM, do you look in PM? It's not if I don't find a trade, if the price action is just bad and we generate liquidity and we don't take any objectives, most likely PM is going to take those objectives. What is the right percentage to leave a buffer? I would say whatever the drawdown is of the account. Usually the drawdown is around 3%, so I'd say 3% usually, depending on whatever your account is from. Prop firm wise, yeah, standard deviation is just, I mean, if you're looking at like a manipulation leg, if we have a manipulation leg like this, right, you take the low to the high and you look at -2 to 2.5, and that area is going to be where you should be looking to take TPs, but you should be just drawing it out from the manipulation leg, from the leg you're taking your inversion from that tapped in the key level. Why do you sometimes use CSC as a confluence, but then also say it's invalid because it already took out the high, for example? Okay, yeah, so if we have like a level of buy side here, right, and we have a sweep of liquidity, and then we do something like this, then the CIC is no longer valid because we hit our target, right? So think of the market as like a story and what it's doing, right? So we first sweep out a low, then we have displacement here, and what is the market targeting that made this move? That why did we do this? Well, to go towards this buy side, right? So if we hit this without any like entry, or if the market just rips up, then this is no longer going to be respected, most likely, if our draw is probably lower, right? Because the target was already taken, right? So same thing with like inversions. The reason I don't take inversions after we hit our target is because it hit our target, right? And the inversion is most likely not going to be valid and respected anymore. All right. Do you guys have any other questions before we head out here? Good rest of the week. We have close to all-time highs, right? Very obvious draw higher here. I don't think I need to do much of a weekly outlook. other than all-time highs of the draw. And we'll see if we can get any longs towards that. And then from there, we'll just play off conditions, which is how you have to play all-time highs. But, yeah. Does the mentorship cost anything? No, it's free. Completely free. Got you, Pay. I got you, Pay. Yeah, so a pretty good charting session. Hopefully you guys learned something. Show your fib settings? Yeah, sure. Probably gonna need to turn on -2 and 2.5 once we hit this shit. And -4. What do you recommend putting on face? Since what? Showing that you're profitable? No. Are the best traders born? And that's the end of this charting session. All right. I will see you guys later.